Welcome to Talking Halos. This is Derek Ciapola with my co-host, my partners in crime, Jared Timms and Nate Green. For another edition of the show. It's August 11th. We're getting into the dog days of summer. Of course, the Eagles already been there, but some light at the end of the tunnel. At least with our core, playing good, playing well. What's up, Jared? How you doing?
Not doing too bad. Yeah, no, it's good to see the young guys step up. I know we're going to talk a lot about some other young guys, but yeah, no, this is a lot of fun. It's been a fun last week and a half of minor league baseball in particular for the Angels and the young core of the Angels playing decently well as well. So it's good to see it. And then I mean, as we're doing this, Jack Kahanowitz is throwing a nice pitching a real nice game out there in Washington. So also great to see that too.
Nate, what's up?
Yeah, excited. Angels are, doing angel things, making winning games after the trade deadline to ruin their draft pick. It's a typical Angel season.
I mean, they did just drop the first two games of the
Yeah, of course.
National Series.
But they did
In
have
their
to
strings.
sweep the Yankees.
I mean,
They've always played the Yankees well, though, for some strange reason. It feels
But
like.
they were like the first team to beat the Mets and the Yankees in
Oh, I
back-to-back
know.
series in a long time.
It's weird though. I don't understand why the Angels just seem to play the Yankees well. Maybe it's just in my head because of 2002, but it just feels like the Angels are always playing the Yankees decently well, no matter or their favorable pitching matchups. I feel like they haven't. When was the last time they faced
They
Garrett Cole?
always miss Garrett
Yeah,
Cole.
they never.
Oh,
I don't think I've seen Garrett Cole pitch. So there's that too. Maybe they could just get favorable pitching matchups against the Yankees every single time.
well, they did have a couple years here where they didn't play all that well against the
Yeah.
Yankees, but that did come to mind. There was a stretch beginning around 1998 for about 20 years where the Angels played the Yankees about as good as anybody could play them across the league.
Yeah.
So,
It's weird. I don't know. It's weird.
all right. So you're talking about the young guys. Right away, this core got to see them for free for those of you who are watching on Roku today. So they take on the Nationals, and there's a reason why that game was free because it's two bad baseball teams. But seeing the young guys, Zach Neto, Nolan Shadwell, Ohapi, Joyce, all these guys getting their licks in. What are you seeing, Nate, that gives you a little hope?
I mean, you're seeing guys play better defensively. I think that's one big thing. Neto looks like he actually is a shortstop, which I mean, we kind of thought he was a shortstop, but you're seeing him grow. I know everyone will point to the errors and stuff like that, but like he looks more comfortable at shortstop at a major league level. Logan Ohapi is doing a really good job with the pitching staff and just developing rapport with some of the guys, especially some of the guys that are tougher to catch, like Jose Soriano and things like that. And he's doing a pretty good job with those type of guys. And they're taking competitive ABs. Like I think that's the biggest thing that you can ask for. Like look at the numbers, whatever, but like you can tell if guys are taking competitive ABs and they are. I think that's the biggest thing from offensive standpoint is they're not striking out on three pitches. They're not chasing, two pitches in the dirt. Like I feel like that was the old Angels is like they would come up, they would look good for a little bit, they would swing it, strike one, chase strike two in the dirt, chase strike three up over their head and strike out. And it's like that's not really what these young kids are doing. So I think a lot of the credit needs to go to Ron Washington and his staff. I think they've done a really good job of developing these guys and you're seeing how much better they're getting from the first month of the season to where we're at now in August.
Jared, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I've been saying this for last year. Like, there's a fun young core group of guys, that it's taken the right mentality. And Nate, you and I have been talking about this for years. The Angels need just that right mentality, of baseball. And I feel stupid for not saying this when they hired Ron Washington, but Ron Washington was not brought in to win games. Like when you think about it, Ron Washington wasn't brought in to win games. He was brought in to teach this team how to play baseball. Like if he's here for 2 years and they go like they lose the most amount of games in a 2 year stretch by the Angels, but all of a sudden that third year they start winning, they're a 500 team, they're a playoff contender. No one's gonna look at it and be like, this is Ron Washington's doing, this is I really like I thought about it today. I watched him walk out to the mound and talk to Jack Kahanowitz, and he's done this before with
Mhm.
a couple other young guys. It's like he's teaching this team how to play good baseball. Like he wasn't brought in and we thought I think I said this when they hired Ron Washington was I wish they would have done this a couple years ago. I don't know if Ron Washington was the right guy a couple years ago. For this team, Ron Washington's a very good teacher of the game, and he's teaching these young guys how to play the game well. It's something that the Angels haven't had, and I'm I'm excited. I really am. Like next year, it's going to be another rough year. 2026 comes around, and that's going to be when the Angels are going to start having a lot of fun. And again, that's probably when Ron Washington's gone. It's a tough thing to say, but this young, fun core group of guys is really a lot of fun. I mean, Logan O'Hoppe behind the plate, Zach Neto is playing some really good shortstop. We're Nolan Shanuel even at first base is part of that young core group of guys. We're just the pitching staff is fun. Jose Soriano. I know we're going to get into some other minor leaguers here in a second, but yeah, I mean, there's something to build around here. And got to tip the cap to Ron Washington and the staff for what they're doing right now.
We spent a lot of time actually criticizing the Angels' ability to develop over the past couple of years, and are talking about both at the major league and minor league level. Is your view changing a little bit by seeing how they are performing now, especially the young guys? I don't really care as much about how the old guys are performing, but it's the young guys who seem to be making those steps. I mean, that counts as development. Does this kind of change how you view the Angels' development system right now, or not?
I think they're doing it the right way, right? Like I mean, I think we mentioned this last podcast, or at least I did. The Angels don't develop in the minor leagues. They haven't developed very well. You look at Tri-City, it's not a good spot to develop hitters. It's a giant ballpark. The WRC plus is like negative there, and that's a joke, but it's very hard to hit baseballs there. You look at Salt Lake and you can't develop pitching there. You don't send pitching there. Sam Bachman's there right now, but you don't send pitchers to go develop in AAA. That's why you see everybody in Rocket City. And that's why you see a lot of this super young core group of guys in um, in Inland Empire as well. And the fact that they put all their money into the major leagues, go ahead, keep promoting to the major leagues and let them develop there because you have one of the best developers in baseball and around Washington. Just sitting right up there, teaching the game very, very well. So yeah, I it Ron, like I said, this just goes back to Ron Washington. Ron Washington's the right guy. I hope that they keep, even if he's not a manager, I hope they keep him around for years to come. They can leave him there as a coach. They can leave him there wherever. But I hope that they keep Ron Washington around for a long time. I think he was the big reason why Atlanta was who they are now and who they were the past couple years. And same thing with Texas. I mean, Texas had a pretty solid young core group of guys when he was there. They didn't. I mean, I'd have to go back and look, but I don't think they made a whole lot of massive trades. That was a lot of. It felt like development there when Texas went to they go back-to-back World Series. I know they lost both of them, but they went to back-to-back World Series and they were pretty good. And it felt like they had a good core group of guys there as well. And you could probably tip the cap to Ron Washington too. And you could probably keep going back even further. It'd be interesting to see what he did. I know he was, I mean,
With Oakland when they went,
Moneyball, Oakland. I mean, that's a phenomenal core group of guys there. So, yeah, I mean, I just continue to tip the cap to Ron Washington. Didn't think that's great. All of a sudden, I'm talking a lot about Ron Washington.
A lot. Nate, how do you feel about Ron Washington and the job they're doing?
No, Ron's awesome. I think he was the right manager. I was super pumped to see him get hired. That was the guy I've wanted for a long time. Going back to the development question, it's really hard to change your opinion on the development because we haven't seen a guy actually go through the system all the way through from a young kid. Just because the Angels haven't drafted that way. They've drafted the college kids that are right about ready to make the big leagues. And so it's really hard for me to be like, oh yeah, their development has changed. It's more of like, no, their drafting has changed. Because if you look at what Billy Jerry did, they drafted a lot of young, it was more Billy. Billy drafted a lot of young kids that are 17, 18 years old and hoped that they turned into something when they were 21, 22, and really had to develop those guys. What Perry's doing with his staff right now is they're drafting kids that are 21, 22, 23 and saying, go play every day. So it's really hard to say that the development has changed. I just think the mindset and the strategy has changed. But like you're seeing guys like we want to see a Nelson Rada make it all the way through it and prove to be a really good major leaguer, not just a up and down guy. You want to see a guy like Kaden Dana come up and be a major leaguer who's in the rotation for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. You don't want to see a guy who's up and down, like what we've seen with most of the Angels, young guys in general. So, but it is an interesting strategy. I think that is the best way to go about it, especially since the Angels don't put too much in the minor leagues. Like that's kind of how you have to do things if you're going to spend most of your money in the major league level. Is draft guys that are ready, let them sit in the minor leagues for a couple months, and then put them in the major leagues and hope that it works out.
I'm interested in seeing more of the process. The problem that I really kind of have had is the lack of transparency and the insanity of just doing the same thing over and over again with a different result. Then you go and you bring in Ron Washington, and it takes a couple months to really see anything, injuries, you name it. And now we're seeing guys kind of step in their own, and that does lend to more, I think, positivity about where they're going. Can we see more of it? That's the real question. And speaking of seeing more of it, let's talk about Kaden Dana and Christian Moore right here from our sponsors. All right. So, Jared, you brought it up. I know you actually hinted at it, I think, a couple weeks ago. Christian Moore, especially Christian Moore, but Kaden Dana too, coming up to the majors anytime soon.
If we stay on this trend of doing a podcast every week, next Sunday we'll be talking about Christian Moore making his debut against the Atlanta Braves in Anaheim. I think he's up next Friday. That puts him at the Nolan Shanuel 45-day window where he remains Rookie of the Year eligible for the next year. He can come up and get 45 days in with the big club. So yeah, he's I mean he's also even if that rule wasn't around, even if Nolan Shanuel wasn't quickly brought up last year, and Zach Neto, those type of guys weren't quickly brought up, probably still be making some some talk about, hey, they might be thinking about bringing this kid up. I mean, he's hit 6 home runs in I think 8 games. He's hit a home run in the Empire. He had 5 home runs so far in Rocket City in less than a week in 6 games, I think it is, for Rocket City. Yeah, this kid's special. I've been trying to figure out why he wasn't the first overall pick. And that isn't just, I mean, it's kind of based off of what I've seen in the last 6 games, but also you look at what he did in Tennessee. There weren't a lot of holes there. He doesn't strike out a whole lot. He got some swing and miss for sure, but he doesn't strike out a whole lot. He hits the ball extremely hard. The peripherals are extremely good. In fact, like I feel like every single time I see him hit a ball, it's 105 plus miles an hour. I mean, he's hit 209 plus mile home runs with Rocket City already. And it's not like he's just sitting on fastballs and hitting him. He's hit I think 3 curveballs as out of the park as home runs. So it's very impressive what he's doing. I would probably guess and say one of the reasons why he was there for the Angels is because, first off, he's a second baseman. I know Travis Passan is a second baseman. Weatherholt's probably a second baseman, but he is probably the lesser of them at second base. Just watching him play second base and some of his mannerisms, the Angels may want to at some point try him in the outfield, but they're going to leave him at second base for right now. Yeah, Christian Moore's he's doing stupid things right now. He really is. Like, it is incredibly impressive. I would be shocked if he wasn't up during that Atlanta Braves series. In fact, like, I would tell you to probably go buy tickets for the Angels next Atlanta Braves series in Anaheim. Like, that's how confident I am that he's more than likely going to be up then. Yeah, he's special. He's been really good.
which
Didn't
Nate
you
already did.
Which Nate did. Yeah, Nate bought into it. You're welcome, Nate.
didn't you predict this, I think, a week ago
Me?
on the show?
What, he's just gonna go off right now?
No, that he's going to be up
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
I'll keep saying it. Yeah, I think there's no mind. He's gonna be.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You predicted it,
Yeah.
but I digress. So, Nate, do you want to see it, or you think they should wait?
I don't see any point in waiting, honestly. Like the kid's absolutely mashing out of his mind in double A. It's not like playing the SEC, and I know people are going to get upset with this, but playing the SEC is very close to playing in high A double A. Like the arms that you're seeing in the SEC are mid to upper nines every single week. You're seeing a Friday guy who is probably going in the top 3 rounds. You're seeing a Saturday guy who's probably going in the top 5 rounds. And then you're seeing a Sunday guy who's probably a freshman who runs it up to 94, 95. So I think he's seen a lot of this and he's had a lot of success. You saw him do it in the College World Series against Texas A&M, who had one of the best pitching staffs in the country this year. You saw him do it in SEC play the entire year. I think that continuing to let him hit in double A, like this is different for me than what Nolan Shanuel did last year. Like, yeah, Nolan Shanuel, his average was fine in double A. He wasn't hitting the ball 105 every time. He wasn't hitting 6 homers in 5 games type of thing. Like this guy is playing like what we saw from Joe Adell at AAA a couple of years ago, where he was hitting a home run every other at bat. Like this is what he's doing at Double A, and um, he's only seen professional pitching for about 2 weeks now. So I don't understand the point in keeping him down in Double A just to say like, hey, he hit 800 in Double A. Call him up to the big leagues. We don't really have a second baseman. Stefanik's not the answer long term. Brandon Drury's not the answer long term. Put him at second base. See if he's the guy. If he can continue to play well at the major league level this year, awesome. You can pencil him in as a second baseman next year, and then that opens up a lot of opportunities. Maybe Rengifo slides over to third, and Rendon turns into a DH. Maybe Rengifo gets moved. There's just so many options that happen when you find out how good Christian Moore is at the major league level.
I'll say this. The one question I have is what does it look like when he fails? He hasn't done it yet. Like literally, you look at what he did in Tennessee. I know, Nate, you're gonna say, he went to the Cape and he batted 175. I know
His
that.
freshman year, which is very important. I think that's the one year that can make or break. I think if you go to the Cape your junior year and fail, you've already been good for 2 or 3 years. It's not as big of a deal. But freshman year is the year where I think it gets into your head. If you don't have a good freshman year, it can translate over your sophomore, junior, senior year. So for him to struggle his freshman year in the Cape, I think is way bigger of a deal than anyone struggling any other year.
Yeah.
So yes, he has struggled, and he still went to Tennessee that next year and raked out of his mind.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago for me, so that again, it still worries me a little bit. We say this all the time about high schoolers. Like high schoolers are the best players, not just like on their team, in their league, in their high schoolers are the best team in their state for years. Like they are the best. They're batting 500. And it's weird. Like Jackson Holiday probably has really never really failed in his life until he got up to the major leagues a couple weeks ago, 3 4 weeks ago, whenever, or not 3 or 4,
2
like
months ago.
2 months ago, 2 months ago. That was probably the first time that he failed. And to see what he's doing right now is awesome. I love seeing him come back up and absolutely crush the ball. I asked the same question about Joe Adell. Joe Adell never failed, not even in the minors. You look at it, and Joe Adell always was a very, very good player in the minors. Like he always crushing the ball, and then he came up and he failed, and now we're continuing to see him like kind of go up and down and like what failures look like. Same thing is going to go for me with Christian Moore. Again, I know he failed in the Cape, but I want to know what it looks like when Christian Moore fails at the major league level, because he's going to fail at the major league level. I had to look it up too. The most games in a row that he didn't get a hit in college was 5 games in a row. I don't know if I consider that not failing, right? Like, I mean, it's little 5 game stretch. Like, I want to see what it looks like when Christian Moore is 2 for 30. You know, like what does he look like then? How does he get out of that slump? You know, that's the difference between being a baseball player and a great baseball player. And I want to know if Christian Moore can be that great baseball player.
I think you're actually making a very good case to bring him up. Like, let me just say this: Would you rather him start up here next year, start in April, he has his big slump probably in May, and then he's gonna work through the whole rest of the summer, or would you rather bring him up now, have some up and downs, and be able to reflect and go back to it over the winter and make adjustments, come back in the spring?
I want him to be with
I think
Ron
I want
Washington as
option B.
quickly as possible.
I think he's one option B. I think I want him to have the opportunity to fail now, so he can have that time to fix the problems over the winter. That makes a lot
And
more sense to me.
and also, Jared, you mentioned the big thing with his game is he's not the best second baseman. Who's better to be with than Ron Washington to learn how to play second base? Like putting him in the major leagues now gives him an extra 45 days to play with Ron. And I know he's already been with Ron back when he was with RBI, but like put him with Ron and let him play second base every day and just let Ron get him out there every single day, 4 hours before the game and just hit him a bunch of short hops, a bunch of ground balls, and I want a video of him and Ron like we see of him and of Ron and Ozzy before games where he's hitting them
Yeah.
where he's hitting the short hops and he's like good like that's where we need to be. So when we see in game, I don't have to see Luis Guillermo hit one off his glove and go into center field for a walk-off L.
And the only way this doesn't happen, by the way, is if the Angels decide to just shove it in the media's face and say, hey, we're gonna actually just bring him up on like the Monday after the Braves series or something stupid like that. That's the only thing I could see the Angels doing is being like, hey, we're gonna shove this in your guys' face because I mean it's a horribly kept secret that he's gonna be up on next Friday. And on Sunday when we have this podcast again, we're gonna be talking about Christian Moore. Like I'm unless the Angels decide to shove it in the media's face. That's the only thing I can think of. And that'd be the only reason why he isn't up.
Which media are you talking about here? You want to shove it in the face?
I'm not, we're not getting into that anymore. We can talk about Kaden Dana though.
I had to do it. I just had to get the look from your face I'm getting right now. Kaden Dana, Nate, thoughts on Kaden Dana coming up? Why or why not?
Say honestly, it's a similar reason for me. Like Dana should be in this rotation. Part of the reason though is we have nobody else. I mean, there was talks of Davis Daniels starting on 3-day rest today, but they ended up going with Jack Hanowitz. But like it, when you're asking Davis Daniels to go on 3 days rest, like just go to the minor leagues. Like, let Caden Dana pitch and I know the metrics are going to say he's not an ace, which we don't think he's an ace. We think he's more of a 3 starter. Like he's got really good stuff. He's got good command, but it's not electric stuff. Like, oh my gosh, you're not looking at a Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander in his prime, Max Scherzer in his prime type of stuff. You're looking at a guy who knows how to pitch. And I think, again, one of those things, he's got to learn to pitch and get major league hitters out. He's a AA. AAA is not really going to help him. Jared already mentioned that because the way that he pitches, it's going to be a bunch of home runs, and it's just not really going to help him develop. So put him in the major leagues right now, partly out of necessity, partly out of he's earned it. He's pitched really well in AA, and again, this is the time when you're 12 games out of the division, you're 15 games out of the wild card, whatever it is. Like, let the young kids play, find out what you have, and it really will help you go into the offseason and be like, hey, is Dana ready? Great. We'll put him in the rotation as our 5 and hope that he's our 3. If he's not ready, then we got to go out and get an Alex Wood or someone who's going to be able to eat innings, another Tyler Anderson type of guy. So I think it's very vital for this franchise moving forward to go and let this guy, especially since it won't even count for his rookie year. He'll be able to win Rookie of the Year the following year if he pitches good enough.
Okay, well, give a player comp for him though. You said this isn't who he is. Who does he compare well to you?
Player comp. Who does he compare well to? Yeah. I'm trying to think like Merrill Kelly, like that.
Merrill Kelly's a solid pitcher.
He is a solid pitcher, but that's not an ace of a staff. Like
Yeah.
there's a difference between Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen, or Max Scherzer in his prime, Justin Verlander in his prime, Garrett Cole. Like, he's a solid pitcher. Like I'm not saying that he's not a good pitcher, but like the numbers he's putting up in Double A, like people are going to expect him to come up and be Garrett Cole or be Justin Verlander. That's just not like who he is.
What about a Bryce Miller? Bryce Miller came up last
I,
year, pitches fine for Seattle.
I think the comp I actually gave Jared was Chris Bassett, which is a fine pitcher, but not an ace. He could be an all-star, but not an ace.
Jared, Kaden Dana. I know how much you like this guy.
I do. Nate said it well. I mean, you got to set expectations, right? He's not going to be an ace. He's not going to be the Angels dude. He's a pitcher. He's going to be a good pitcher. And the reason why I'm emphasis on pitcher is because he's not a thrower anymore. He's a pitcher. He looks like a legit pitcher. I watched each of his last 3 starts, and again, Nate mentioned it. It's not the best stuff. He's not blowing guys away. It's not upper nines. It's not a George Clausen. It's not that kind of guy. Justin Verlander, who's gonna pump strikes past you. He's gonna outpitch you. And to take it back a little bit, I watched his first start in low A of his career, and I said, stuff alone, he is a top 5 prospect in this organization, and put him in the top 5 of my prospect list right away. I said that. However, he needs to learn how to pitch. He was throwing in low A. He's a completely different pitcher now from when he was just drafted out of high school. It's been really cool to see him, and I use this word sparingly, develop into an actual pitcher. So the answer is yes. I think that he's up with Christian Moore in the next couple of days. That really wouldn't surprise me if he finished the season. And he deserves it too. He really does. Like, he's been pitching very, very well. And if you asked me this at the beginning of the year, I think we probably had this conversation. It was like, no, don't bring him up yet. Don't bring him up this entire year. But we're gotten to a point now where it's like, he's going to be up next year. Just bring him up this year. Let him get 45, days. What is that? 5 starts, maybe 6 starts, maybe at the major league level. Let him learn from guys, like Tyler Anderson, and I mean, dare I say, like, bring up a guy like Johnny Cueto to kind of teach some of these guys the veteran way. Griffin Canning, I know, has had that veteran presence as well. Ron Washington talked about at the beginning of the season. So yeah, give him some time with this older staff to learn. Kevin Pillar even is another guy that I'm sure is helping a lot of guys out, including pitchers. So yeah, I think he's up this week, if not next week, as well, making his first career start, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. It really will. Like I said, though, you have to set expectations correctly. He's not a dude that's gonna blow guys away. He's not gonna strike out 15 guys a game. But he's gonna outpitch you. He's gonna, throw the sinker down in the zone, the fastball down in the zone. He's got a big curveball. The slider and changeup are the 2 key pitches to him pitching well. And I think that those 2 pitches are very good pitches to get guys out and weak contact. That's going to be the thing with not Griffin Canning, with Kaden Dana, is, can he get weak contact? And he's shown that in Double A. So yeah, I think both him and Christian Moore are up in the next 2 weeks. Christian Moore is up on Friday though.
I think the whole moral story is just let the kids play. Just let them play. Just let them play. Any closing thoughts, guys? Nate, anything else you want to put out there? Any predictions?
Dana and Moore on Friday would just make the game that much better. That would be a fun one.
Jared?
Yeah, you're welcome for buying tickets. I've been pushing that. We've been pushing that date out for a while. I'm not going to say I, because if I know someone's going to be listening to this podcast and they're going to be like, "Oh, you keep pushing this out." Okay. Yeah, I'll be getting a phone call when they listen to it. But yeah, it's actually fun to talk about Angels having a decent young core group of guys. And we went this entire podcast, and we have 5 minutes left, so we're not going to continue to talk about it. I'll let Derek take it away, but I mean, kind of got to tip the cap to Perry Manasian and staff on this one. Like, they're doing a decent job to get high level major league talent, right? They might not be developing the young guys, but they're getting high level major league talent that's going to be somewhat of an impact at the major league level that you can somewhat build around in the coming years. That's all I have to say. Like, whether or not you want to keep him around, I don't care. I don't want to start over again. So Derek, take it away. Don't let Nate talk anymore.
Wow. Okay. All that said, I guess we'll see the ballpark on Friday. Follow us on Twitter at Talking Halos or X. Follow Nate at Nate Green 34, Jared_Timms, and me and DC Ciapola. And we'll see you guys next weekend. Apparently talking about a rookie debut.